The 10th Assembly on Tuesday elected as leaders with former Akwa Ibom State Governor and former Minister of the Niger Delta Affairs, Godswill Akpabio, voted Senate President. Tajudeen Abbas from the Northwest was also voted Speaker of the House of Representatives. Abdulaziz Yari, a former governor of Zamfara State, was Akpabio's direct opponent as the leadership of Nigeria's Senate went to the South for the first time in 16 years. The dust of Nigeria's new legislative direction now settled. The years ahead hold so much, and Nigeria is awaiting. Now, joining me on this discussion tonight in Politics HQ, I have the honor of having distinguished Senator Shehu Sani, a former lawmaker from Kaduna State, Nigeria. Distinguished Senator Sani, warm welcome to you, and thanks for joining us on Politics HQ.
Thank you for having me in your program.
Now, Senator Sani, as a former lawmaker, what are your thoughts on the election of Godswill Akpabio as the Senate President of the 10th Assembly? How do you think his previous experience as a governor and a minister will influence his leadership in the Senate?
First of all, I was not surprised that Akpabio was elected Senate President, and also Tajudeen Abbas, in the sense that they were the anointed candidate of the president. And unlike in 2015, when President Muhammadu Buhari had an anointed candidate in the person of Ahmed Lawan and Bajamiala, and both wouldn't scale through because of lack of consultation and communication and coordination, Bola Tinubu, being a former senator, knew very well the importance of consultations and communications with the senators. And the ruling party went into the contest with a relatively united House. And the fact that from what we have seen, consultations have taken place and a lot of horse trading. So I wasn't surprised. And to me, Akpabio being a ranking senator and one who was a state governor and also a minister, must have built a strong contact and alliances over the years to see him scale through. I think that will be helpful. But the point is that he has two ways. One is either to work, the new National Assembly have two options, which they will choose one. The first is either to work for the country and the president. The second is either to work for the president and his party. And that will be the direction of the Senate. The parliament is supposed to be an independent arm of government, one that will perform its oversight function and hold the executive to account and make laws for the country. But we have seen in the last 4 years under Ahmed Lawan, where the parliament simply become the extension of the presidency.
A rubber stamp,
and everything we have seen in the last 4 years under Ahmed Lawan, where the Senate became the extension of the presidency, that led to them being labeled as rubber stamp. So Akpabio has an option either to work for the country and, of course, with the president in partnership for the progress of the country, or he simply work for the president and the ruling party, and that will not be good for the country.
Now, Senator Sani, I'm happy you mentioned that, the president did some wild consultations, but others have pointed to the failure to adhere to the principles of separation of powers, because it seems President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was very instrumental in the emergence of the principal officers of both houses of assembly. He consulted widely, and the National Working Committee, according to what we heard, did nominate these individuals. Could you elaborate on the factors that led to Godswill Akpabio's victory over Abdulaziz Yari in the Senate President election? And is it an anomaly for the executive to be interested in who emerges as the principal officers in the houses of assembly? Yes.
Well, since 1999 to date, um, whoever you see that emerges as a Speaker of State House of Assembly or the President of the Senate or Speaker of House of Reps, most times were the anointed candidates of the President, except on few occasions. Take, for example, what happened in State Assembly. In State Assemblies, the speakers, most times, 99%, were the lackeys or the stooges of the state governors. And for the simple reason that the state governors always want a smooth sailing for whatever they presented before the House, and they don't want the scrutiny of the parliament. They also don't want the parliament to perform its oversight function as it's supposed to be done as an independent arm of government. And that led to what has been happening in the states. As of at the national scale, at the national level, I mean, the Senate president, knowing what has happened in 2015, where a Senate president emerged who was not the candidate of, who was not the anointed candidate of the president, and there was 4 tumultuous and rancorous years and frosty relationship between the executive and the presidency. The president knew very well that he has to tread this path very carefully. And for the fact that also you have a structural defect, structural lopsidedness in the country today, where the president is a Muslim, the vice president is a Muslim, the speaker of House is a Muslim, the chief justice of the Federation is a Muslim. So all that remains now for the ruling party to score a balance is the Senate president, which they need a Southern Christian. And if that was, if they have failed to do that and Yari emerged as a Senate president, then all the accusation of Islamization or a religious agenda will simply be a proven case. Could have been very difficult for this government to have exonerated itself when all the most important positions at the top level of power are all manned by Muslims. So it was a do or die affair for this president to see that Akpabio emerges so that at least one arm of government will be headed by someone from a different faith.
Okay.
But apart from that, whoever is a president of the country will always like a harmonious working relationship with the National Assembly. But in that pursuit of a harmonious relationship, most times, senators turn themselves into stooges of the president, like we have seen the last 4 years.
So distinguished Senator, permit me to come in here. Where do you draw the balance between your oversight functions and a harmonious relationship? How do you work for the benefits of the majority of Nigerians, even if you're from the same party as the president?
Okay. In what is obtainable in a civilized, in an advanced democracy, has been that the president who wants his policies, programs, and bills or nominations approved will first of all coordinate and ensure a united front of his party, and then move to the other party and consult with them. That is what's supposed to be done. By that, the independence of the parliament will be protected, and also the sacrosanctity of the parliament as one that should perform oversight function also will be respected. But now the issue is that how do you accede to the requests and demands of the presidency without being a stooge or a rubber stamp? Well, you have to strike a balance. First of all, whatever is not in line with the interests of the people of the country, whatever policies, programs, and bills that are presented that is not in tandem with national interest or the prosperity, the peace, future of the country, you simply have to turn it down. But a situation where you said you will work, you are there to work for the president, like Ahmed Lawan has said, this is what has become of it in the last 4 years. So for Akpabio, one thing is that you should send a clear message to the presidency that this is an independent arm of government and we need to protect and preserve its integrity, its independence, and also its constitutional responsibility. And we now have to partner in the interest of the country for us to ensure the smooth running of government and also governance. And that we shouldn't be here to simply be an approval agency of the executive. We have to do our job. On that level, the Senate can then protect itself, and then also the nation can achieve through working together with the executive.
Now, Senator Shehu Sani, Godswill Akpabio has emerged as the Senate President for the 10th Legislative Assembly, In terms of legislative priorities, what do you expect the 10th National Assembly under the leadership of Godswill Akpabio to focus on? And are there specific issues or challenges that you believe should be given top priority, looking at the current socio-economic state of Nigeria today?
Well, to me, first of all, as far as Akpabio is concerned, first he has to achieve unity within the National Assembly. Those that voted for him and those that voted against him, he has to work with everyone, not a situation where you persecute some people by giving them some committees that are not in quote juicy, and then you reward those who voted for you with juicy committees. From that point, you will set a stage for rancor and disharmony. The second is that when you are able to achieve that, there should be four most important priorities as far as the agenda of the National Assembly should be, and that should work in tandem with that executive. First is the issue of national unity. The need to address the imbalance, the need to address the issues that has divided us as a country, as either along religious, ethnic, and sectional lines, will be addressed. And the issue on table is restructuring. Restructuring should be a priority. The second is the security of the country. You can see what is happening in the last 4 to 8 years, where terrorists, bandits are still kidnapping, even when Tinubu has taken over. Killings in Plateau, killings in Benue, and the separatist agitation in southeastern part of Nigeria. This should be a major priority. Whoever is appointed as a service chief must be held accountable and can only retain his position based on performance and which is visible. The third aspect should be the economy of the country. Where Tinubu has inherited a country with such a debt of over $40-something billion foreign debt, and which is now up to 77 trillion naira. How can this economy be revamped? And it can only be revamped by setting a clear agenda. These are the priorities. This is what we want to achieve. And having people with competence, with vision, with ideas, with integrity to man the positions in ministries, departments, agencies of government at federal level is very important. So I think these issues, restructuring, security, economy, are very, very important, and national unity.
Now, Senator Sani, I want to pick on the last point you made. Having people with competence to man ministries and also agencies, government agencies, is very important. You were a senator, and the screening of ministerial nominees without attached portfolios has raised concerns among Nigerians. The leadership of the Senate and House of Representatives has been settled. I believe Nigerians will be looking forward to the ministerial list. Now, can you provide an insight into the decision-making process behind this approach where you screen names, sometimes they say, you know, just bow and go? How can legislators ensure that the nominees are well-suited and capable of addressing the country's challenges so we don't have a situation where you have square pegs and round holes?
You see, the culture in the past has been that nominees for ministerial positions are sent to the Senate without attaching what portfolio will they be appointed to. And that becomes difficult. You send the list of 30 ministers to the National Assembly, and the senators don't know who is going to be Minister of Work, who is going to be Minister of Health, who is going to be Minister of Aviation, and then you end up asking general questions. So I think what is necessary now is that before the president send in the names, the portfolio of what he intends to appoint them to should be attached. And an important note is that Tinubu should not appoint people based on the fact that they have contributed to his election. This entitlement syndrome among many former governors who believe that they have helped him to be there and it's time for them to be appointed. If he populates his government with former governors who have not performed in their states and who have nothing to deliver other than fake loyalty and the claim that they have helped him to be there, he will waste his first 4 years without achieving anything, because all they have is their own so-called loyalty and the fact that they have contributed. They are planted and now they are there to harvest. And that should not be. If he goes ahead to say he is going to form his government of national competence, then whoever is going to man any position should be the one that has the experience and the vision to do things differently. If you are appointing a minister of aviation, know very well that the person who is going to be there knows what aviation is all about and has vision for what aviation should be. We shouldn't have a situation where, like what my friend, the former Minister of Education said, he was appointed a minister without knowing anything about education. And he served 8 years. And since independence, he happens to be the longest serving education minister in our history, in our country. So let us know, if you are appointing a minister of health and he is on the floor, people can ask him questions about health and then he answers. And that is how things are supposed to be done. Nobody says you shouldn't compensate those who help you, but find other places to compensate them. If you are going to work to appease former governors, to appease the entitled, to appease your party, then the country will be ruined as it is now. And if you are going to work for the country, do things differently, develop this country and advance us to the future, you have to appoint capable, competent visionaries in the position of authority so that this country can move away from where it is to the future.
Now, Senator Sani, we're in the 24th year of our uninterrupted democratic exercise since 1999. Yesterday, we celebrated Democracy Day. Based on the experience we've had, what lessons or insights do you think the 10th Assembly can draw from previous assemblies to enhance legislative effectiveness and improve governance in Nigeria? We should be moving the needle forward in enhancing our democracy.
Well, if you as a democracy will certainly be for the people, by the people, and of the people, then it should serve the people. Whatever is going to be presented before the National Assembly, one thing they should do, the first, is to see how is that useful to the country, and how will that help advance the country, and how will that help in the vision of the country for the future. I think that is what is most important. The lessons the new National Assembly should learn is that if you take the path of confrontation with the executive, you will end up achieving nothing. And if you take the path of over-cooperation with the executive, what will happen is we're going to be a rubber stamp, and the country will simply move into a one-man dictatorship. The president says it and he gets it, and he demands for it and he gets that at any time. And that should not be. You can see what has happened if they are going to take lessons in the last 4 years. Sometimes the National Assembly will invite a head of ministry, department, agency. They will refuse to come. And whether they come or not, their demands are always being approved. During our time at the Senate, I can't invite you and say you won't come, or I can't send you a message that we are coming for oversight function and you will tell me that you have other things to do. As you see, that's why if the Senate maintain and protects its integrity and independence, it will send a clear message, not just to head of ministerial department, but even the president, that there is a limit to your power. If those who invented democracy emphasize on the parliament, because it is the only brick that can checkmate excessive use of power, abuse of power, and extreme use of power. You have a parliament that will have to approve what a president said. If you have a king who has no parliament, it simply becomes a dictator. So one suggestion is learn from the mistakes of the past, see how you can take lessons out of it, and then build for the future. And look at all nominations. You shouldn't shy away from rejecting people who have been sent as ministers or head of department or agencies once they don't comply to the laws of the land. Sometimes they will employ a head of an agency will be given an opportunity to employ 500 people, and at the end of the day, he will give 400 to his ethnic group and give 100 to give 150 to senators to share, and then 50 to people who simply apply from everywhere. So I think this time around, the new National Assembly should learn from what has happened at the 8th Senate and also what has happened at the 9th Senate, and see how they can synergize the two to achieve. During our time, we couldn't get many of our bills signed because of the frosty and confrontational relationship between us and the president. But the 9th Assembly.
Hello, Senator Sani, are you there? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
During our time, we couldn't get the president to sign most of our bills, but we prevented him from leaving a pile of 77 trillion naira debt. During the time of Ahmed Lawa, they got almost all their bills signed, but this is the situation in which we find ourselves in the country today.
It's nice to have to strike a balance. Thank you very much, distinguished Senator Shehu Sani. You've done very well to honor our invitation, and I did enjoy our conversation. And of course, just like a majority of Nigerians, we wish the 10th Assembly all the best. Thank you very much, sir, for talking to us tonight on Politics HQ. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're watching Politics HQ on News Central Television. When we return from this quick break, we'll be talking to Pastor Itwa Igodalo. We'll be discussing the state of the nation as we return from this quick timeout. To stay with us.